Hey guys, it's Oliver. I've just come off a mentoring session with one of my students called JD. He's navigating the area at the moment, going from freelancing to agency owning. He's talking about productizing service, got a lot of issues that we ran through today. And so I thought I'd turn this into a bit of a YouTube video so you can watch in the background. You can see what it's like to be mentored by me, get a lot of value, get a lot of insight, and enjoy it. I'm a visual guy, right? So we have to draw this out. So I work with a lot of developers already, right? Webflow developers, Shopify developers, WordPress developers. The main issue they have is they go from an order taker. So whatever comes to them, they'll try and find out how to do it. So they might have someone that comes to them that needs this, someone that comes to them that needs this, someone that comes to them that needs something like this, right? And because typically it's you and maybe you've got a bit of a team, it's right, we need to do this. So this maybe takes 30 hours, this maybe takes 40 hours, this maybe takes 50 hours, and we're going to need this. This is maybe a local business. This is maybe e-com, right? This is where it gets a bit of a headache, right? So what you need to think about in terms of moving forward is streamline, streamline, streamline. So this is where we need to think about it as instead of selling hours, we need to sell a product. Okay, so this is where a lot of developers will kind of get things muddled up. So what you want to be doing is really focusing on selling particular packages, right? And that becomes easier when you start to narrow down on the industry that you serve, narrow down on the platform that you do it on, and narrow down maybe the scope that you choose to do. Okay, so one thing, it might be worth thinking about is if we were to have two triangles right out here. Let me flip one of them around as well. And let me also add in a few lines here. So if you look at each of these triangles, and maybe I'll add text on here. So let's look at this in terms of price point. This will all make sense in a minute. This in terms of industry, right? So what a lot of people do is they will focus down here and they will serve loads and loads of different industries. And so a lot of the time they'll look like a bit of a commodity, right? Someone comes on Upwork or someone reaches your website and they say, I'm an e-com person, I'm looking to do this. And you say, yeah, we do that, we do this, we do everything. And so for them to decide on who they go with, right? There's no real differentiator. So they might go with someone who's $30 because someone who's $50 looks the exact same, right? And so actually what they're going to prioritize then is the lower the price. Okay, whereas what you want to start doing is once you start narrow down in your industry, ultimately you can then charge a lot more, right? Because let's say you carve out an industry, and obviously your niche and your service better than I will, but it might be that you choose to focus on local businesses, or it could be that you choose to focus on food and beverage brands, right? So when then someone comes to Upwork or someone comes to your website or they find you on social media, if they're a food and beverage brand and there's all these people they can select with, but they know that you specialize in food and beverage brands, you can get them up and running within 4 weeks. You can build up their SEO within their, development. So they're going to be able to target the right kind of market. You're going to become the obvious choice, which means you can then charge a lot more for that.
Okay. Can I ask a question here?
Of course you can, yeah.
Yeah. Finding out the industry, is that something that comes with repetition? Like the more, because I wouldn't say that, like, let's say when I started working like freelancing, I wouldn't say I'd had an industry. I was just like trying to like make money. And now I'm seeing more of a trend in the clients that I've been able to serve. So is that something that you work out as you like keep doing projects, or you feel like I should just stop and then try and figure out what the industry is or choose one?
Yeah, so there's cause and effect of that thing, right? So people find their own route in a different way. So it might be, for me, I spent years studying architecture. So a lot of the work that I started putting out was because I'd worked with people in the architecture space. And so people who needed logos and websites and things like that were drawn to me because they saw I was putting out that kind of content. And also I had a lot more knowledge in that space. So I chose to kind of focus in on there. For you, it might be that actually 60% or 70% of what you've done previously is for SaaS companies or Web3 companies. And so actually a big range of your portfolio is around that. So it's based on maybe what you've got experience with in the past, or actually if you wanted to pivot, it's around what you enjoy the most or you know the most out of, right? But the way it works is instead of putting out a portfolio of everything, you put out a portfolio of the types of clients that you want. So actually, if you wanted to do a complete switch and you only wanted to work with food and beverage brands, all your portfolio should be food and beverage brands, because inherently when people land on your page or they're scrolling through, they're going to be drawn to what they want to see.
Okay.
Right. But the beauty of that is, you know, we're not trying to battle them between a square project and a circle project and this, right? Everything is within triangles because we know what we offer. And it might be that actually we have different packages. Okay. So this kind of leads us on to how do we productize things, right?
Okay.
Now, have you heard about the story about the cabbage?
No, I haven't had the cabbage one.
So this is an interesting one, right? So it's whenever you kind of trade in time for money, and this is with development and design and things like that. Let's say, you know, someone goes to a shop and they want to buy some cabbage. Okay. So there's maybe two things they're going to choose from. They might like the look of this. They might like the look of this. Maybe each one's maybe 50 cents. They're going to go with this one because, oh, this one's 40 cents. I'm just going to get this. It's just cabbage. I'm going to put it in my basket. I'm going to go. Right. But what they've started introducing into supermarkets now is pre-washed cabbage with zero chemicals. Okay, that's 90 cents, right? Now people have got a choice to make. They don't just want something quick and easy. It's okay, I'm thinking about, I want to be a bit more health conscious. I'm going to go with this one, right? Okay, so then what do? They start packaging up salad, but they think, okay, what do people normally do with salad? Actually, you know, they put croutons in it, they put some sauce in it, and so they sell a Caesar salad for $3, right? So when you're kind of productizing your offer, you want to think about actually how are people using this? What are they looking for? What's the end outcome people want? So a lot of the time for you, it's going to be around, okay, people typically value speed. You know, they're looking to kind of move pretty fast. They want something in the future that's, you know, built, but actually it's going to collect leads. So actually maybe we think about adding a bit of an SEO bolt onto this. And so you can think about how do you add all these ingredients to say, you know, I develop a 5-page website for $5,000. This is what it gets, rather than saying, you know, this is going to cost me this many hours, maybe this. You actually lay out packages of what people can purchase, because what you'll find is within your space, it is customizable, right? So 80% of what you do is probably the same thing over and over again. And it's 20% of it is actually the customizable elements. So you've got to think about how do you in the team productize these core elements with maybe add-ons that people can change. You know, maybe someone wants to go from 5 pages to 7 pages. Somebody wants maybe a little bit more, you know, help on the design side, right? Does that make sense about how you're going to start crafting this?
Yeah, exactly. No, it does. So can you walk me through, for example, how you productize your service, for example? Because I know design is also like a custom service.
Yep. So for me, I do a lot of my lead packages are around the logo design. Okay. So I've built a bit of a value ladder just to give you a bit of an idea. So people come to me for logo design. I then find out what the problem they need next is. It's normally web design, it's maybe social media design. And so I capture people at the logo design phase and then have a value ladder from there. And developers that I've worked with have done the exact same. So they'll capture people at that initial development stage, and then they'll offer SEO, or they'll offer support, or they'll offer maintenance, or they'll offer A/B split testing on a monthly basis, right? So for you, I don't know, just thinking out off the fly here, it might be that you offer 3 different packages, right? And let me think about how I can draw this out on the page. So, oh, hold on.
And if I have packages and someone comes and says none of these work for me, what's the response to that?
Well, a lot of the packages are discussion starters, and what you'll find is people prefer to buy proven processes and packages rather than you chucking a random quote out there and saying it might include this, might not include that. Okay, so what it might be is you maybe have a launch ready package. Okay, something like this. Maybe this is for businesses that are looking to get online fast. Maybe this is, and you can obviously change this based on what you do. Maybe you have a launch ready package for 3,500. Maybe you have a, I don't know, an authority builder package or something. You know, you can get creative with the names. Authority builder package. Maybe this is for more established businesses that are looking for something a little bit more professional. Maybe that's 6,500. And then what you also might have is, hold on, get my clicks to work. And then you also might have a bit of a lead generation package, right? So
like a cheaper one.
Well, bigger one, right? So lead gen package, maybe this is actually, you know, 8,500. And this is for businesses that want a website, but they also then want support in getting people to the website, because that's typically the next problem that people have. So what you do is each package would have, you know, certain fixed features, certain fixed timelines, certain fixed price. So it's, you kind of stop the conversations of just being an order taker all the time. And you can actually productize this. And, you know, instead of, because it's really hard to get people to pay $500 an hour, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to get people to pay $500 for something that might only take you an hour to do, right? So think about it a little bit like that when you're building things out. And then the magic is around how you package it up. So it might be that you do specifically on WordPress, or you're specifically Webflow, or you're specifically Shopify, and you develop it based on what they've got already. And it might be that you have, I don't know, 3 pages on this one, 6 pages on this one, 7 pages on this one. If they want an additional page, it's this, this, this. If they want an additional, you know, if we were going to think about what we add on to this, let me make a list, because these things are a little bit easier in a list. So fixed features might be amount of pages. It might be, you know, mobile responsive on every single one.
Yeah.
It might be basic SEO. I don't know, contact. Typically everyone needs a bit of a contact form. SSL, maybe a few revisions, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then what you might do is you might then have things that are basically used as like a bit more of an upsell, which they can add on to the packages. So,
and each of those would have their own price.
Yeah, so it might be custom, it might be added pages that are, I don't know, that go past the 7-page mark. It might be, what else could it be? It could be booking systems, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be booking systems. It could be, where are we?
Could be animations.
Yep. Custom animation.
Third-party plugins, you know, kind of stuff. Multiple languages, right? But what you'll find then is, instead of having to kind of hard think about quoting everything, is people will come to you, and when you give them the prices, you know, you can say, typically it's, you know, instead of saying this is going to cost you 18,000, you know, if people came to Porsche and said, you know, what's the price for a car, and they said, oh, it's going to be 100,000, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not sure about that. But they have models that start off at 60,000. And then based on what people want, they can add on to it, and it ends up being 100,000, because they're thinking, right, I'm going to do this right, but actually I really do want language, and I really do want a CRM, and I really do want extra copywriting. And so, you know, they can craft their own model around that. Yeah.
Okay. And does this work in the context of Upwork as well? Because because let's say somebody, you bid on a project, person has the fixed budget, would you still just share this with them and say, these are the packages?
Yeah. So what I would recommend doing is setting up a bit of a document which basically outlines kind of the packages that you offer.
Okay.
And you can make this in a bit of a PDF, right? So what I'd recommend doing is maybe making, let's say, I don't know, a 10 to 12 page PDF, you know, all these different pages, all kind of lined up, explaining different things. And one might be like a hello page, introduction. One might be a past work / testimonial, right? You're basically saying, you know, here's everything about me. Maybe this one's about packages, this one's about add-ons, you know, maybe there's another past work and testimonial. So instead of saying something like, here's my quote, right? We don't want that. You want to say something like, here's all the packages all my past clients choose between.
Okay.
Right? Because that way, you know, one, it's basically giving you more credibility, because you're saying, right, you know, all these people have worked with me before. This is how the process works. This is what they choose between. But actually, when they go on there, you're also feeding them with a little bit more value, a little bit more credibility, a little bit more, you know, oomph on it. And then they effectively can say, you know, actually, I just want a authority builder package. Everything in there is perfect for me. Let's go ahead and do that. Get it done in 6 weeks. Or they might
Okay.
say, yep, you know, I'd love the lead gen package, because that way you're not then giving them one quote to decide on. You're allowing them to adjust themselves on that ladder. So you're going to lose less clients because actually they get to choose the package. And you actually might be able to charge more for the work because they want to add more stuff on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Does that help?
No, it does. It does. It really does. It really does. Yes, I think it's much clearer now. So it's less about, say, like finding one product to repeatedly sell customers and more about like the process, like selling the process, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. Because we've got to think about how you build an agency, right? And like I said before, it's all about streamlining things. So what you can do then is, let's say it costs you 8,500 to sell a lead gen package, right? You might then find out that you can build on, hold on, let me bring this to the front. You get this amount for doing it, right? You actually, this is in relation to the small triangle. Maybe actually you get a developer to do it for 1,500. So you know then every single time you sell something like this, your profit margin is going to be $7,000, right?
What's a good profit margin, by the way? I'm always curious to find out this because I don't know. Mine are currently, let's say, 20-30%.
Oh, is in like, what is a profit margin?
I mean, what is a good one? Like, what's a good profit margin? Because I've heard wild ranges. Some people say their profit margins are like 20%. Some people say 50. Some say 70.
My profit margins at the moment are 80%.
Crazy. Okay.
Okay. But the reason why I can do that is because I find good talent that costs, you know, $400. But then you layer on your marketing, your psychology, your sales calls, everything else, and you might then be able to sell it for, I don't know, 3,500, right? And it's all about how you sell things, right? And actually, right, the beauty of that is, wouldn't you know, maybe I want to start selling things at 6,000, right? It means I can then actually find even better talent, which might cost me, you know, 1,000 every single time. Right. Okay. I think what I would try and aim to do is, because once you're going to start niching down and you're going to start being able to increase your price, you're going to be able to start having better talent. And so I would try and push your profit margins above 50%, ideally, if you can give that as a bit of a target. But in terms of obviously what we're doing, right, we want to streamline everything. So if we know that we have these certain packages, it becomes a repeatable process, right? Which means it's going to take less time to developers. You can create systems and automations and processes around, you know, having all of this. Maybe you've got a library of pages that you can actually start off with. You know, especially if it's food and beverage, you might have loads of images that you can already start to use. And so it's just way easier to build products and then to resell them and to build them from there. And then maybe you have the 20% customizable stuff on top of that.